at 6 after a deadly plane crash, possible changes for a village airstrip.
May Day protests against Donald Trump reach Alaska and the lower 48. We're taking a live look right now at the one here in Anchorage, what demonstrators want done and how the Trump administration is defending some of the policies they dislike. In this video, part of an Alaska's news source investigation into the system behind ankle monitors that criminal defendants wear after two high-profile cases involving defendants out on bail accused of new crimes.
And what will the governor do? We're waiting for an update on money for education.
Well, it's breakup season on Alaska's river systems. Ice is moving, so the watches and advisories are starting up. I'll have that and the forecast in this newscast.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
And we're starting tonight with breaking news. We have just learned that troopers arrested a suspect in the death of 16-year-old Elena Tonis, who's from Wasilla.
Alaska State Troopers say they arrested 45-year-old Sean Mobley. They've charged him with second-degree murder, manslaughter, and first-degree misconduct involving a controlled substance.
Now, the Alaska Bureau of Investigation says that Mobley provided fentanyl to Tonis before he abandoned her body on a power line trail in Wasilla. She had overdosed. Troopers say that she died from that overdose caused by the fentanyl that Mobley provided her.
The Alaska Office of Special Prosecutions will oversee the case.
And tonight there are questions about the safety of runways in Nanwalek after Monday's deadly plane crash.
And Quinn White joins us with a closer look at the challenges.
The NTSB now believes that the pilot Daniel Bunker crashed trying to avoid a dog on the airstrip in Nanwalek. But taking a closer look at that runway, we can see there's not much room for error. This is what the runway looks like now, surrounded by mountains with oceans on both sides of the airstrip. A Department of Transportation spokesperson now telling us the runway is not up to FAA standards, and they're looking to build a new runway.
By relocating this airport, we'd be able to get a longer runway, a wider runway, one where there can be a taxiway. We'd be able to add lighting, runway markings, navigational aids, all things that aren't possible at the current airport.
The new runway would be located between Nanwalek and Port Graham. The DOT would also build a road connecting the two communities. However, the department doesn't have a timeline for when that will be completed. They say the project is still in its planning stages. Quinn White, Alaska's news source.
And we're still waiting to see if Governor Mike Dunleavy signs an education bill, including a $700 per student funding increase. The House and Senate passed House Bill 57 yesterday. It means if the bill becomes law, the base student allocation would total $6,660.
The BSA formula funds neighborhood schools, charter schools, and homeschools. So the bill before you increases funding for correspondence schools by $14.4 million.
Governor Dunleavy's spokesperson said there will be more said about the bill in the next few days. If there is a veto, it would take 40 lawmakers voting in favor of an override to undo that. 48 lawmakers have voted for the bill.
And even if there is not a $700 BSA increase, nearly all Anchorage school district cuts, like jobs, after-school sports, and popular programs, could be reversed. That's according to the school board president.
Andy Holloman says a new budget vote planned for Tuesday is built on a $560 per student increase. Holloman said that the revised budget is based on an increase that both board members and administrators are hoping is a good number.
We feel like certainly there is a strong push from the legislature to do something significant. Whether or not it stays at 700 is hard to say. There's still a funding bill at the end. But what I've heard from several people in the legislature is that this is something they feel like they can make happen, whether the governor chooses to cooperate or not.
Well, the school board's vote is scheduled for Tuesday. Holloman also says that if it does pass, notifying teachers they can have their old jobs back will be the first priority.
But as the Alaska Beacon reports, some of the 11 Republicans who voted against the bill have issues with policies on the final version, including reading grants. Some say will not be coming effective unless a bill updating corporate taxes becomes law.
And open enrollment, allowing students to transfer between schools and districts, was not in the bill. You may remember that the governor has been promising a comprehensive education bill since his State of the State address, including charter and homeschool funding.
I'll talk to anyone about money if the conversation is also about different approaches and better outcomes. And that's why my education initiatives will include, that's what my educational initiatives will include this year.
Now, a growing number of students are taking note of what's developing with the education bill and how it can affect their future.
And one of them is Ella Willis. She goes to Diamond High School and she joins us live. What's your reaction to the education update that we are hearing now?
I think it's amazing. I think that if this bill gets passed by the governor, I think it'll be a really great thing for our schools, not just here in Anchorage, but across Alaska. A lot of schools are really struggling, and it's just a really great thing to see that so many legislators are behind a BSA increase.
And, Ella, can you talk a little bit about the impacts of having these back and forth debates over money for education? Does it frustrate you as lawmakers try to navigate what proper funding in education reform looks like?
Absolutely. It frustrates me a lot because it just seems like it should be such a simple thing that our schools just deserve funding and our students deserve the money that they need. And it's just hard to see lawmakers struggling so much when it should be a given.
And we kind of come back to this issue every year, and this one still isn't set as well. So what's your message for students who are thinking about next year's budget education bills?
I would say advocate as much as you can. Reach out to your legislators, your senator, your representative, reach out to the governor, reach out to everyone you can and just tell them what matters to you, because that's what I've been doing. And it's really empowering, but it's also really important that we get our message spread as students and as the youth of the next generation. And just, we are the future, and our future needs to be funded.
Ella Willis, thank you so much for joining us, Diamond High School. We appreciate you. We're taking you live now to Anchorage. Protesters on the park strip. It's part of what are called May Day rallies. Demonstrators out highlighting worker rights.
Now, for many, this is also a protest of the Trump administration policies. People are demanding reinstatement of diversity, equity, inclusion practices, and an end to federal layoffs.
Meantime, President Trump continues to defend his policies, including job cuts. He says shrinking the federal workforce and eliminating positions will save the country money in the long run. The president and Department of Government Efficiency vow to what they call eliminate waste, fraud, and inefficiency.
And it's hard to believe it is May 1st already. Rounds of wet and windy weather are still out there.
Meteorologist Jackie Purcell joins us with the forecast. Where are the May flowers, Jackie?
I know. I'm looking out the window like, yeah, it's still there, Rebecca. The clouds are hanging over the Anchorage area, but the river ice is on the move in northern Alaska. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. First, we'll get to the south central area, where under cloud cover, we have 48 degrees with winds out of the south at 11 miles per hour. And for our highest temperature, 52 degrees, what puts it right at the norm for this time of year. The record, however, from 1995 on this date, May 1st, it was all the way up to 68 degrees. We've just had a trace of precipitation. There's one lone little sunshine out there in the south central region. Hey, it's in Talkeetna. Otherwise, we see cloud cover, if not rain, and heavy rain even, in fact, in parts of Prince William Sound. That southeasterly flow will continue to push this precipitation across the region as we go through this evening, and especially heavy rain into the North Gulf Coast and Panhandle through tonight and even into Friday morning. And as this moisture moves across the interior, it could produce even some snow in the month of May, which is not unheard of, by the way. And here's a look at our forecast for the Anchorage area going into this evening. We keep the clouds. We have those showers into the valley. It's possible in Anchorage. Higher elevations could see some snow at times, but should melt off as high temperatures will go from the upper 40s to 52 degrees here in the Anchorage area. Still that chance of showers, the chance of showers even into Fairbanks, Juneau, looking at rain and mixed showers across southwest Alaska's Bethel location, and a high temperature there of 38. We'll have more on the forecast coming up a little bit later.
Thank you, Jackie. So we're going to show you some video that's part of an Alaska's News Source investigation into the system behind ankle monitors that criminal defendants wear.
I'll tell you what our months of reporting now shows after 2 high-profile cases involving defendants out on bail accused of new crimes.
You're watching Alaska's News Source.
Tonight, Alaska's News Source investigates, reveals the results of a months-long investigation into the state system that includes the ankle monitors that criminal defendants wear.
And that comes after both Anchorage and Fairbanks have seen two high-profile cases this year where our investigative reporter Johnson Kuhn tells us both defendants were wearing monitors when prosecutors say they committed new crimes. Johnson.
Because of many questions from the public surrounding those two cases, we asked the DOC to show us how the system works. So they took us for a ride-along. This is some of the video from that. It's called Pretrial Services. DOC numbers showing dozens of Corrections Department officers. They're in charge of supervising almost 1,400 defendants statewide waiting to go to court. Coming up tonight at 10, we'll show you why DOC leaders say the system's working. But then there are Anchorage and Fairbanks examples. Defendants out on bail related to other charges wearing ankle monitors, now facing new charges, including armed robbery in Anchorage and murder in Fairbanks. Critics say it's examples like those proving the system is flawed.
DOC doesn't prioritize reintegrating people and helping people overcome the issues that can cause them to commit crimes in the first place.
The Department of Corrections has been supervising people for years. Pretrial specifically started over 7 years ago, and I would say that there are a number of folks that are already released with similar conditions and have not violated.
Now tonight at 10, we'll take you along for the ride to show you how the DOC says the system's working and what critics say needs to be done to fix it. Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's news source.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.